Well, here I am again with another old relic, and no, I don't mean me, from the late 60s, early 70s. This is the PYE 1551 stereo record player. You don't have to be a genius, so to see that this isn't made by PYE at all. It's no more made by PYE than I am. This is a Philips, and the giveaway, of course, is down here. Well, one giveaway is down there. PYE were always based in Cambridge, traditionally, in the heart of the Fenlands, and a lot of their old sets used to be called things like PYE Fenman, and conjuring up picturesque visions of the people who maintained the wetlands up there and kept them pumped dry with the little wooden windmills. This was done by steam from the early 1800s, because if you get a horrible summer like we're having here at the moment, where there's a hell of a lot of rain but not much wind, the little windmills couldn't cope. So eventually, given that some of the ditches and dikes were wide enough to allow navigation, coal was brought in and steam took over, and had pretty well taken over complete by the late 19th century. But as you can see, although the landscape up there might be the same as Holland, it definitely isn't Holland, and this was made probably in Eindhoven, where Philips had a big factory. Let me put it this way, if you lived in Eindhoven, then you probably worked for Philips. That was what somebody told me once years ago. The other thing, of course, is this familiar head shell, GP 200, 204, 205, AG3306, I think this was known as well. And this is a plug-in cartridge, but it has a changeable stylus on there. So when the time comes to change the stylus, you just unplug the thing from the tone arm and turn it upside down, and it's much easier to do than the one you say on a BSR. The sound quality is pretty good too, and this thing was used in everything from their tiniest little record player right up to some pretty high-end stuff. And when you hear it in the pretty high-end stuff, you can appreciate how good a pickup it was. This tone arm is quite unusual. It's got a tracking force adjustment back there. You may just be able to see the little number in the groove there of the tracking force selected. And it shows the usual beautifully made, almost Bakelite like plastic that they used to use as well. It's quite heavy for what it is. This one would have been sold only in Europe, I imagine, because it runs on 50 CPS AC mains. And in America, if they'd made this model for America, it would probably have been made there and badged as an Arelco, because their mains runs at 60 CPS or hertz in new money, So I'll tell you what, it does hurt if you get a shock off it too. Now, unlike many of today's offerings, you can play 78s on this or 45s. Got an automatic arm return on it. So yeah. And unlike a lot of Philips stuff, there is a fairly decent amount of bass on this one, because the amplifier actually has balance, treble, bass and volume. And there's your little power on lamp. That will be a lamp, because this is too old to have an LED. They didn't come in until the 80s, if my memory serves me right. Now, little word of warning about old things like this. This head shell was made for many years, and they don't drop it or bugger it up, because they are hard to obtain. And the other thing is, if you buy a record player at a boot sale or flea market or whatever, and you're not sure what condition the needle's in, it's a bit like when you buy a second-hand car. If you don't know when the cam belt was last changed, change the bloody thing, because if the belt breaks, it'll wreck the engine. And it's the same thing with these. If you're not sure about the stylus on it, then fit another one, because you don't want to go home and ruin your record collection, do you? So, see what this old thing sounds like. This pickup, I think it first came in the very early 60s. So, and it was white in those days. Top of them tended to be white, and the lower part sometimes red or just black. And it matched their two-tone leatherette cases at the time. But when this style came in, the Space Age style, I think it was called, with the wood and chrome and black and so on, the thing was redesigned, recoloured to look like that, and away you went again. Another thing was that the earlier pickup had the spline on the tone arm rather than the back of the cartridge. So those are now getting like honest politicians, pretty rare. Anyway, let's see what this whole thing sounds like. Put that down. Oh dear, crackle, crackle. Does that sometimes. Probably an old capacitor. I think we might have to have a look at that. Whether I can get this to land in the right place, I don't know. Well, nearly. Not bad. Should have worn my glasses.